Hey, party people. I'm Robert Kijowski. I'm a staff writer at the Workprint.com, and I am privileged to be speaking with the comic creator of the God Machine, writer, illustrator, Venture Brothers superfan, world creator, Chandra Free. It's a pleasure speaking
Hello.
with you.
Pleasure speaking with you too.
Before we get into the questions, I do want to plug you, and I do want to say that you recently, just last week, had the God Machine Volume 1 released to the public for free at Global Comix.
That's right. Well, first of all, there's two options. First of
Yeah,
all, we're doing a chapter per week from the original God Machine,
yes.
volume one revision, that edition. And we're giving a free chapter every week leading up to volume two.
Nice. Nice.
But if you don't want to wait on that and you want all the goodies, you can get the PDF out of the gate. I think it's like $7 or something like that,
Mhm.
like the full book. So you don't have to wait on my, schedule.
Of course. And you said those were in black and white, correct?
The new book is in black
New
and
book,
white.
black and white.
The old book you get in
Yeah,
glorious color.
and actually that perfectly segues into my first question.
Yes,
First off, congratulations on Volume 2.
thank you.
Now, from the very second I cracked open the God Machine, this
Mm-hmm.
personal tome of work of yours, I was
Mm-hmm.
transported to another realm. I'll be quite honest. There's an impeccable fluidity to your art itself. Just the art style, there's a dynamism in any panel. Just point to any panel. There's a dynamism to it, which is amazing. The question is, because every single page is you stem to stern, what are your influences as an artist, as an illustrator?
It's a long, complicated story because I mean, I've been drawing since, well, my mother says, you know what mothers say, you
Yeah,
take with a grain of salt. But
of
my
course.
mom says I could draw before I could walk.
Nice.
So the materials were in my hand
Yeah.
as a wee child. And I've always done art for fun. I've always done art as something that I was seriously interested in as a child
Yeah.
and well into how old am I? 42. I'm
Mm.
still still there with artwork as being my thrust in my life, like
Yeah.
where I want to go, what I want to do. So my art influences are always varied because it's really what I grew up with to when I started making the God Machine. I mean, God Machine started in 1999, actually, in high
Wow.
school.
Wow.
So it was a concept that I really loved and really enjoyed. And of course, I, my background is Disney. It's Warner
Yeah.
Brothers.
The
Warner
good stuff.
Brothers. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the good stuff.
Hmm.
I would just like me and my cousin, who's also a comicer
Hmm.
herself, we would watch Disney television and other programs like Gargoyles, Batman the Animated Series, you name
Amazing.
it. We
Yeah.
would tape them, pause them, and then like recreate
Nice. Nice.
what we saw because we wanted certain poses and we didn't
Yeah.
have the books or anything like that. So
Hmm.
we would just like practice and practice and practice. So I mean, when you think about that, those are my biggest influences early on is all of that like 80s, 90s
Yes.
pop culture
Hmm.
artwork and stuff like that because I'm an old person.
Trust me, I'm a kid of the 90s too. So
Okay, okay.
Batman,
So
Gargoyles, just that whole, I want to say that whole run of Fox was just
it was
impeccable. It was
so good.
untouchable,
It was
unsinkable.
so it was so good. I mean Gargoyles was what? Like first of all is a Disney show where
Mhm.
they one episode where they have like one of the gargoyles, Broadway, I think it is, shoot
Yeah.
Elisa Maza,
Hmm.
and there's blood on the ground, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck is this shit? This is
Yeah.
amazing. I'm watching a Disney cartoon. Of course, later when they put it out, they removed the blood or something like that, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But
it blew my mind.
yeah.
And then like that like early to mid 90s, like anime started coming into the scene, like Vampire
Yeah.
Hunter D,
Oh wow,
Project
yeah.
Eiko,
Hmm.
Tenchi Mayo, Oh My Goddess,
Yes.
like stuff
Hmm.
like that. And that started to creep into like where I would like start to incorporate these themes into my artwork as well. And
Yeah.
also, like me and my cousin, Lindsay Sivas, by the way, she's the creator of Peach Fuzz for
Yes.
Tokyo Pop back in
Hmm.
the ancient days of
Yeah.
ancient days.
Hmm.
But
I
like,
remember.
yeah. So like we would create our own comics. We'd write and draw our own comics. We'd do fan comics, Sonic and
Yeah.
stuff like that, like before Sonic was
Yeah.
cool,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like so well, I mean, Sonic was always cool, like
Sonic was always
Genesis
cool.
and stuff. Yeah,
I'd say
but
fuck the
yeah.
haters. If you guys, if there's somebody that's like Sonic not my thing, I'm like, you're not my thing. Everything, I mean, to each
Yes,
their own, of course, but
to each their own, of course. But yeah, so Sonic, anime. Then like in high school, my friend JT handed me a book called I Feel Sick, story about a girl, Jonan Vasquez.
yes, yes,
And
that
it
sounded familiar.
yeah, it blew my fucking mind
Mm,
because here I was in high school, this is my senior year. I'm thinking, am I going to do anime manga style? Am I
yeah.
going to do like the big two, but that doesn't interest me? And when I say
Mhm.
big two, to anybody out there who doesn't know what that terminology is, it's DC or Marvel.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a little bit over anime manga at 1999 before the
Oh,
big,
really? Yeah.
bloom of everything
Hmm.
was about to happen. Um, I don't know why, teenager, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, when he put this book in my hand, I was flabbergasted because I didn't know indie comics
Yeah.
existed
Hmm.
and that you could do whatever the heck you wanted to
Yes.
do.
Yep.
And that blew my fucking mind
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
wow, I can do whatever I wanted to do. And I was like,
Yeah.
I have to find my next thing.
Hmm.
Because I was doing like anthropomorphic, like superhero slash
Yeah.
magical girl comic for
Hmm.
myself. It was called Brandy the Star Child.
Nice.
Very cute.
Is
Also,
that a Kiss
probably
reference?
no, it's
Oh, okay.
not. No, it's I was obsessed with Brandy the singer when I was a kid.
Nice. Okay.
And
Okay.
so
I can't
like
hate on that. Love Brandy.
so I was like, I made this panda bear character with dreadlocks, like purple dreadlocks, and she
Nice.
was very cute. And so her name was Brandy, and she was the star child, and it was like this mahojo shojo
That's
kind of
awesome.
thing going on. Yeah, it. I've aped a lot of ideas that I was playing with and put
Yeah.
it into the God Machine because I'm
Mm.
like, I've always had kind of a darker side to me, but I mean, like, I was
Yeah.
really like before I found my muse in 1999, I was pretty Jinko kid with
Oh yeah.
like white t-shirts and
Guilty as
like whatever.
charged.
Yeah, so I was like, I was not a goth girl just
Yeah.
yet.
With indie comics and you finding this whole new world, they do what they want to do. They are the ones funding their own thing. They
Yeah,
have their own
yeah.
vision. And to me, I'd rather fall in line with that group. I love Hollywood and I would love to get involved on that side too.
Sure.
But I do love the expressiveness of if you're going to do something and you want it done a specific way, just go out and do it.
Well, yeah, I'd like you saying this, like, I originally wanted to be an animator growing up,
Hmm.
but I wanted to do character design and I
Yeah.
wanted to influence the story and stuff like that. But quickly I learned you just don't get to be in those places without doing the grunt work. And
Yes.
I mean, praise to all the people who've done the grunt work,
Yes.
right?
Of
The
course. Hmm.
in-betweeners,
Yep.
uh the people who help create like 2D animation and
Yep.
anything else in this modern context,
Yeah.
like, but to me I wanted to skip all that shit.
Yeah.
I want to,
Hmm.
and it occurred to me at some point in my life, like, no, comics is it.
Hmm.
Indie comics is it. I can do everything. I can, which
Yeah.
is also a detriment, by the way. I'm just going to
Yeah.
say that.
I totally get what you're saying. Mhm.
But I could set the stage. I could
Yep.
do the writing.
Hmm.
I could create my characters,
Yeah.
design my characters, and set the stage and do the keyframes essentially.
Hmm.
Which I that's what I wanted to do in animation.
Yeah.
Which for anybody that doesn't know, keyframe versus in between, keyframe is the point of action that informs all the other images that goes around it. So
Yeah.
you complete an entire animation. Just for anybody who doesn't know, I
No,
mean,
of course. Yeah.
it's anar-
I love this insider stuff because
yeah.
there are people too possibly watching that might want to get into comics. So these things are important to know, definitely.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, comics comics are not easy, and I still find myself learning
Mm.
things. And
Yeah.
we're say an impatient me from like the 2000s or early 2010s or something like that is not the more careful, like, well, let's hold off, let's really pour ourselves into this moment and
Yeah.
really figure out what we're doing instead of taking shortcuts. Which, by the way, shortcuts are great because usually people will just be like, and done,
Yep.
and done, and done.
Hmm.
They'll just read right through it, and your masterpiece, all that day
Yeah.
that you spent on that one image, they just did not see it. they
That's
they saw it
true.
for a second.
That's very
So
true.
finding a balance between your shortcuts and your pouring into an image, because you never know that one person might be pouring over your artwork in the
Yeah.
future and really like absorbing that.
Yes.
Wow. So yeah, Jonan Vasquez was a big
Hmm.
influence, for sure. When I was in college, Art Nouveau was a big thing for me,
Mm. Love Art Deco.
and I wouldn't say exactly German expressionism, but a little bit of that.
Like the
There's
cabinet of Dr. Caligari, stuff like that.
sure like that stuff like that very harsh kind of,
Lines.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then also, Caravaggio doesn't get enough love, or maybe
Oh,
he gets too much love, but
you
Chiaroscuro.
just like sparked up so many like thoughts in my mind right now because Caravaggio is very evocative to me, and I will go to the mat for him for anybody that says otherwise. But I do understand what you're saying, where maybe he's talked about too much. I adore his stark blacks, though. Just his art, he's painted
Exactly.
well. Hmm.
So like chiaroscuro, for anybody that doesn't know,
Hmm.
that's the black versus the extreme brights and stuff like that. Just the beauty and the darkness and the brightness.
Yes.
That's what I love about Caravaggio. And a great painter. And I mean, fine art has definitely influenced me, and I
Hmm.
take a different approach when I make my comics. Of course, like, I'm doing something completely different this time around. We'll get around to that.
Yes.
But with, say, volume one, I really built up my canvas,
Yeah.
like a painter would, like putting a color down and then painting on top of that.
Mm.
I don't necessarily do that anymore. I mean, I kind of do, and I kind of
Yeah.
don't, depending on what I'm doing.
Hmm.
Because now it's about shorthand and trying to get things done.
That's
Before,
true.
I was just a meditative painter
Mm.
working
Yeah.
on a comic book.
True. So, also your characters in the God Machine, they're imbued with humor, self-awareness, and humorously lack thereof sometimes. And most gripping, just pathos, like in each and every one of them. The entertainment that lies in the book for me is that they're basically walking tinderboxes emotionally, which I
Yes.
love. Who and what would influence these characters as you were writing through the years?
So there's me. Um, like, it's really interesting. Like, come from a rich. Oh my God, I just called them out.
You didn't say anything. Well, you dude, that's
I,
okay.
I, I said a little bit. I'm sorry, but that's okay. They came from a really rich family,
Hmm.
and well, moderately rich, whatever.
Yeah.
They're still going to a public school, but they their family showered them in money rather than love. And
Hmm.
I always found this curious, and they were so fucked up.
Yeah.
And just these two
Yeah.
brothers and how they were living and how they were growing up as we were teens, and
Hmm.
it was so weird and so different for me. But also, I was going through a lot of depression as a young
Yeah.
person, and everything felt like, it was somebody's funeral, like, for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Hmm.
And I channeled a lot of my sadness and a lot of what I saw from them, and I kind of put them all together. And I mean, like, he is the callus for evil God.
Okay.
He and Limbo God is actually his brother. I won't
Hmm.
say his brother's name. And then Good God, well, surprise, surprise, he's kind of
They
based on me.
Yeah, I mean, the trio of you, like of all you three, is just the interactions. Each page, if you're not there, I'm like, I want them back. I want them back because the interactions between the three characters are great. They're amazing.
Oh, thank you. I mean, like, but also Guy is very much me, but without, like, I did not act out towards people. I didn't
Yeah.
like yell at anybody
Hmm.
or anything like that. I was more morose and in
Hmm.
my own head and
Hmm.
in my own world. So Guy is kind of like part of me that didn't get to shine through, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And mom, if you're watching, which she's not, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, but the mom character in God Machine is based off of my own mother,
Hmm.
who, when I came out to her as being depressed,
Yeah.
and was suicidal.
Yeah.
This is dark stuff here.
That's all right.
She yelled at me and
Mm.
told me, people are dying of cancer and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
What do you have to be sad about? You have a great
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So I took that. I put it
Yeah.
in my book
Yeah.
because that
Yeah. There are
hurts.
people that do view that subject matter in that way. There are
Yeah,
people that will deny therapy. They don't believe in it's like mental help or mental health is just it seems like it's a made up thing to certain people, which it's
sure.
very much not.
And pardon my reach over here as I get rid of a banner. Okay, there we go. It's like that was bothering me.
Totally cool.
But it's also the struggle of a person who doesn't understand what their kid is going through either. And I
Yeah.
mean, I sympathize with my mother because how frustrating that must be
Yeah.
to have a child who we just got back from the doctor, and the doctor saying, like, you know this is not a good situation, pretty
Yeah.
much. So her frustrations become the mother's frustrations in God Machine.
Hmm.
And I have sympathy for Guy's mother because I
Yeah.
have sympathy for my own mother too,
Of course.
because she exerts herself like, I just want my son back.
Yeah. Hmm. It makes
Uh,
perfect sense. Just to put certain figures in your life in your scripts. I do that myself. And just like you, I think a lot of writers will do this too. We'll split ourselves apart into different characters,
yeah,
especially
because
parts that we've never experienced before, but always wished that, like certain parts that we want the world to see, as you said, but the world hasn't seen yet.
yeah, exactly. Because, like, we need some kind of outlet, but also like a different believability than, say,
Yeah.
or something more interesting than maybe
Yes.
what we would have done, because
Yeah.
maybe we're just boring.
That's the thing. I mean, when it comes to creating a world, especially one as interesting as yours, you really need to be imaginative because these people face real life problems emotionally. So that's
Mm-hmm.
completely relatable. But at the same time, I do find people just in general immensely entertaining. But normal life is kind of boring just day to day. So as a creator, I'm sure you have to utilize everything in your toolbox to make it the most entertaining bit page by page you can,
I
which is
mean,
really
that's
great.
oh, thank you. I mean, that's the idea. That's the hope. Sometimes you get in your head like, was that entertaining enough? Was that, but sometimes you just want to be true to scenes, true to
Yeah,
yourself and whatnot. And sometimes it's not always going to be razzle dazzle or, something intensely interesting, but it might be to somebody else,
that's
you
true.
know.
That's true.
Um, you just don't know how it's going to read for a lot of people. I mean, like I've written a book that is inappropriate for children, and yet I found out the other day that a 7-year-old is my biggest fan of this book.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, oops, I'm sorry.
Do
Just I'm
not
like,
be, kids are smarter than what a lot of people think
agreed,
sometimes.
agreed. There we
All
go.
right, getting to our third question, possibly one of my favorite. With you and the God Machine, we have 80s new wave, post-punk, Pixies, even Fab Four nods, and I was completely just beside myself. They're festooned throughout the entire comic. Uh, my question is kind of a three-part question, but I'm going to treat it more like a triptych than anything else. First part is, how much does music weigh in the actual creative process for you?
I think everything.
Mhm.
Like,
I could definitely tell.
yeah, I mean, music like just listening to music, it doesn't even have to be what's being said in the
Mhm.
song. Like the music itself can just influence like story ideas and
Yeah, like
whatnot.
the
Like I
mood.
just yeah, I mean, like I grew up with music,
Hmm.
like musical household. Our hallways were lined with picture disc, vinyl that
Really?
had pictures on it. Like
Oh, wow.
Bowie was there,
Of course.
the Beatles, Prince, Toto. Like I remember,
Yeah,
like there
of
there
course. Why
was one
not, Toto?
like it was a shape of Africa for
Oh,
Africa.
okay,
It
for
was
Africa, yeah.
really cool,
Mhm.
but you could still play it because it
Yeah,
still had that information on it. And of course, on my corner of everything was my Disney picture disc and all that.
nice.
But I mean, music was played on the weekends. My family took me to go see my first concert when I was in the second grade to Paul McCartney.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
impressive. For a
yeah,
first concert so young, Macca already? Wow.
yeah, and like that was a Tripping the Life Fantastic tour,
Okay, wow.
which that's a great like live album, by the
Hmm.
way.
I agree.
For any, so like, music has just been so influential in my life since I was a baby. I mean, just like art, like
Mhm.
I mean, it just informs me. It is me.
Yeah.
I love it. I
Hmm.
crave it. I breathe it, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I might not be able to play anything
Yeah.
and I'm not that great of a singer either, but I
Member of the
enjoy
club.
I enjoy music so much. And I'm you're one of the few people that has pointed out the Beatles is
Hmm.
in here. Not many people know that.
One of the reasons, because I'm not too dissimilar from you, grew up in a musical household. My mother was used to be a music teacher. So
Okay.
naturally, I actually had her as a teacher in the sixth grade.
Oh, cool.
Because of the middle school that I went to, it wasn't by choice that I had her because we had electives, and
Sure.
music happened to be an elective. I played trombone in the band at the time, so I
Mm.
didn't have time for chorus, and plus
I
my
did
vocals,
chorus, by the
yeah,
way.
my vocals sucked. But the thing is, what I would love, because obviously she would drive me to school as she went to school, and she'd drive me back as we both went home. And so what I would do if I wasn't in the band room playing the drums when nobody was on the drum set, because I like to dabble with music. I'm not somebody you could say that is great at music, but I do play multiple instruments.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
if it wasn't there, I was in her room and she had a record player, and she had a bunch of Beatles, Who albums, everything like that. Highly got into that stuff. So Beatles is kind of, for better or for worse, because I don't listen to them as much these days, because I think I just overdid it. Kind of like I overdid it on the Smiths when I was like 20 years old.
Oh yeah.
But like I'm like,
Morrissey sucks.
because I'm like, she's got 80s new wave references and stuff, and then the Beatles that came out of nowhere. I'm like, props. That is props. So this actually weighs into my next question. If you want to even call it, it's like swims in the slipstream of this next question. What's an album that you have no problem standing by as evergreen, as in like it'll stand the test of time?
Oh my God. The ones it's really oh, it's complicated.
I only picked one because I know we could talk about this like probably for ages.
Oh yeah. I
And
mean like
let's let it be known that you're not putting this album above any others, because there's probably others, but just one that you could think of off the top of the head.
one did come out of my head. Perfect Circle Mur de Nom. Um
Nice.
uh that was kind of the mantra of 2000 when it came out, and
Yeah.
me and were listening to that nonstop. And it's one of those albums I come back to every so often, and it's a good playthrough from start to finish. But also like Songs of the Faith and Devotion from Depeche Mode is
Oh,
another
yes.
really friggin' great album. Um God, music. Ah, I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
know. I
It's
kind of,
like
I
it's like
just
picking
reading through the comic, I'm like, all right, this person's a music fan, so I could tack on a few actual music questions. Um,
mm-hmm.
Speaking of Depeche Mode, I would say, at least for me, just off the top of the head, Black Celebration's probably an easy desert island disc for me. I would easily say it's still one of my favorites above all of their other stuff. Although
Okay.
I haven't listened to the new Depeche Mode though. Is it good?
Um, I still need to give it some more listens. I saw them in concert for this particular album.
Mm,
It was a great concert, of course. R.I.P. Fletch.
yes.
I was a little sad, but the album is good. It's very capable. That's very
Being diplomatic, but that's cool.
yeah. I mean, like I the jury's still out.
Mm,
But I mean, like I love Delta Machine. I loved parts of Spirit,
mm,
which I liked it sonically, not
yeah,
necessarily what the lyrics were saying.
yeah,
It just felt like there was a little bit of a disconnect for me, but
yeah,
the sounds like Martin is doing like
yeah.
is just so like rich, and he's so obsessed with his synthesizer.
Synthesizer. You know what?
Thank you.
I struggle with that word every day. It's such a weird word.
But
Uh,
I mean, like Depeche Mode. That, by the way, that is my
yes.
band. That is my
And I
band.
just want to like, I don't know if you know that, but the Pet Shop Boys just recently, within I don't know, I would say the last year, released an album. I think I
How's
haven't heard
that?
it, but I've heard it's killer. So
All right, then I'll put that on my to
I'm starting to
listen
get back
list.
into them. I was into them for a little while, but then this question
I was too.
actually bites on the tail of the last question. So,
Mm,
if you could pull a Pete Seeger on a jukebox, which is to take an axe to it, what would the
mhm.
song be that would do the jukebox in?
Like to kill it. Like I
Yeah,
don't
I
like
mean,
it.
Pete. For the record, if people don't know, there's an apocryphal tale of Pete Seeger, the folk singer. Back in the '60s, Bob Dylan played a concert at Newport. It was like 1964, 1965. And for whatever reason, he wanted to go full electric, but it's a folk festival. So, like, he wanted his, and there's a lot of viewpoints to it, to what really happened. But the tale was that Pete Seeger had an axe and he was going to chop Bob Dylan's amp or something like that. Never happened, but I just like the tale more so than the actual reality of it. But what's the song that you would sort of do that for on a jukebox?
So So just okay, let me understand this. Are we
Yeah.
killing the digital aspect of it, the electronic, and having an acoustic, or are we just getting rid of it? Like it is bad.
If it's a song, like if you had an axe with you and there was a jukebox in a bar, what's the song that gets to you so much that you would actually take an axe to the, the song that
Cotton Eye
turns you off?
Joe. Cotton Eye Joe
Good choice. Good choice.
can fucking go.
I hated that song when it came out.
Me too.
Hated it. And I remember, I don't know why you just brought this memory up because I haven't thought about it since, like this actual memory. But I remember when the song was big, back in gym class, had to be like elementary school or something.
Yeah.
We had to line dance to it, which was very gross.
I
Very
can.
gross.
So I was at this place in Florida, of course, Florida, where on the hour or every 30 minutes, that song would come on. It was like a crab
Wow.
shack or something. I'm like, where have we gone to? Why are we here? Can we
Hmm.
get out of here as soon as possible?
Yes.
Because I was like, this is, and like the waitresses would line dance to it.
Hmm.
It
Uh,
was awful. It was like
uh,
the worst thing
that's
ever.
horrible. That's horrible.
Oh, oh.
So, my next question, we get to the illustrious Doc Hammer, who
Oh,
penned the forward to the God Machine.
he sure
Uh,
did.
First of all, what's the story behind basically getting one half of the creative duo that created quite possibly the greatest adult
Greatest.
animated cartoon in the world to write your forward?
Best show ever,
Yes.
period. Doesn't even need to be
Okay.
an
Yeah.
animated
Unequivocal.
show. It just,
It
yes.
is. That's true.
So, I started talking to Doc on DeviantArt a
Oh
long
wow.
time ago. So, and like he knew of my artwork and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say we were friends just yet.
Yeah.
But I met him at Dragon Con in 2006,
Mm.
7, somewhere in there. And I was like, here's some artwork. And he's like, that, that that's you? I'm like, yeah, I know you. And I'm like, oh
Wow.
my God. Yeah. And so like we became friends that night. It was really wild. He like just wow.
That's amazing.
I mean,
It's
like,
yeah, I knew because I knew of you, I think around the time when, especially when the Venture Brothers first hit the scene, because you were
yeah.
one of, I remember you as being you and like a few other people, just as a small
Mm-hmm.
circle of people being like day oneers. Like
Yeah.
you were right on it before the wave hit, way before everybody else.
Yeah.
I think that's why I possibly, I don't know if it's MySpace that I initially knew you from. It might have been MySpace because this was back in 2013, so I don't remember. Could have been Facebook.
It was probably Facebook because
Yeah,
I don't I don't know when MySpace
I don't even
phased
remember. Sometimes
out.
my mind goes like, as a 40-year-old, sometimes my mind goes like, oh, it's got to be MySpace. I don't know why.
Right,
It's a new
right.
thing that's been happening with me. But
Well,
it's interesting because I definitely know that you and Doc have a communication online. You're like definitely super tight. Uh, did how did it come about? Did you ask him to do it for? Did he?
I did ask him. I did ask him.
Mm,
And then I'll get to something else a little bit later, but
mm,
it there's something kind of special about him doing the Ford.
yes.
Like super special. Like there was this one Dragon Con. I just had a breakdown. My husband at the time, my now ex-husband, um, didn't know I was having this moment
Yeah.
because there was this publisher that was like, "Oh, we might publish the God Machine."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, but you got to do this other thing first." I'm like, okay, and there's a
Yeah.
might. And then I just had gone to New York Comic Con that February, and so many people were interested in publishing The God Machine. This is 2007, by the way. Yeah, that puts good meeting docket 2006. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So in 2007, I, I'm hanging out with Doc,
Hmm.
and I'm telling him like my woes and da 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 da. This publisher might publish me, and he's like, "Fuck him!
Yep.
Like, get you had interest.
Hmm.
Go and talk to them. Go." Like,
Yeah.
he told me the most basic thing, but it was so eye-opening because I didn't have to be like beholden to a particular publisher that I was working for, who
Yeah.
wasn't really doing anything great for me or anything like that. I
Yeah.
want to get into that because that's
Hmm.
dark and awful. But Doc inspired me to talk to my first publisher, Archaea,
Hmm.
and they immediately said, "Great, let's get you a contract after we see a couple of sample pages." And lo and behold, I got my first book
Yeah.
through Archaea because Doc gave me some very simple, whatever. And I asked him, like, "Hey, will you do the forward for me?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure. Just send it to my email." Da, da, da,
Hmm.
da. Like, great. So,
It's interesting. It's very interesting that you bring up Doc's advice, very simple but very profound in its
mhm,
wisdom itself, because it
mhm,
actually kind of goes full circle to what we were or back, harkens back actually to what we were talking before about, which was do it yourself, the indie
yeah,
ethos, basically.
yeah,
And Doc is an inspiration to me for that for that very reason. The fact that painter, writer, musician, he did
listen,
it all himself. He
yeah,
just went out and did it. And to me, that was one of those inspiring figures where it was like, there's no reason why I can't do this.
you're right. I mean, like, he's such a profound, prolific person.
Yeah.
And I've always been inspired by him for so many years. And just the fact that he is that indie persona. And I mean, like, we should totally get into this a little bit later, why I'm coming back to the God Machine, why
Mhm.
this is a thing, because definitely indies have to do something with it. But also, my friendship with Doc has like evolved and been so magical. Like, he officiated my wedding.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
he
big.
it was really big. He took the time out to come out to Connecticut and marry me and my now husband, Stephen Iman, who's also a comics creator. And
Mhm.
he's also helping with the God Machine with
Yes.
doing some editorial duties. And he's on volume 2 doing letters for at least the web comic version. And yeah, Doc Hammer
Yes.
married me and that man in the other room.
It's I had only spoken to him on a personal level a couple of times. Interestingly enough, one of those times I wrote an article for the Workprint uh, because to put it really bluntly, I got testicular torsion.
Oh
So,
wow! So you got
yeah,
to talk. You got to like
and
commiserate.
commiserate. It was just one of those things where I was for like about a week just laying up in bed and I really couldn't do anything. There was I didn't really feel like writing only because just to sit up was very painful itself. So, but I needed to write something. I needed to write about this weird experience. So I went back and I watched the episode of the Venture Brothers that dealt with that. I knew that it was very personal to Doc. And so I'd sent him the article not too long after it was published, and he got back to me, talked a little bit. And I believe I could say this. I don't think that it's not public knowledge, but it's fine. He called me a brother of the worst kind. And you know what? He is 100% correct. 110% correct.
That's, that's
I do want to
Amazing.
ask you, like, really curiously though, before when we talked about concerts and everything, it just came up. What would you like your favorite concert be if you had to? Because surely you had gone to concerts after that.
So I've seen Bound twice.
Okay.
Um, and I saw Bound with Division before them, and that was like a come to a religious moment for me.
Wow.
And they're a synth pop band. I don't even
Hmm.
know if they're still together. And Division is a longtime synth pop band that
Yeah.
opened for them, and it was the most oh great moment. And then the second time I saw Bound, fucking Frank, the lead singer of Bound, came over, held my hand, and sang directly to me at the show. It was
Wow.
like, ah,
That's
amazing,
insane.
insane. And then I got to talk to him after the show. I
That's
was like,
great.
and like Hojab opened up for that version of Bound. I love industrial
Yeah.
bands, industrial synth pop, that kind of thing. So I've seen a lot of those concerts. I've seen Tori Amos, I've seen Ben Folds, I've seen They Might
Wow.
Be Giants, I've seen Weep, I've seen
Yes.
Pageant Girls, I've seen Vision Video. I love Dusty. Dusty is amazing. He's great. I've seen B-52s.
Yeah.
I've seen A Perfect Circle. I've seen Tool. I've seen Michael Bolton. Go figure. Whatever.
And all these names that you're spouting out right now, it just makes sense to what ultimately goes on the page in the God Machine because there's so many influences, which actually brings me to my last question, which is
Ooh,
probably the most, I guess, heady question, but let's not call it heady.
okay.
Um, Obviously
I'll
been
take a
a
sip.
fan since 2013, so that brings us to over a decade since Volume One that I bought. What are some things uh, over the last 10 years that have informed Volume Two? Just life experiences.
So, volume two has been written for a long time. I've probably, when did I finish that? Like somewhere mid tens. But I mean, like I'm injecting some newness to it, so I
Mhm.
feel like it's fresh for me. I mean, unfortunately, so the reason why volume two has taken so long is because I've had a lot of life happen.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. And so from supporting myself, which does not allow you to actually make a book, doesn't allow you to make comics, because comics don't pay, which is unfortunate,
hmm
especially if you're doing the indie route. I just never had the time, and I had gone through an abusive relationship. I've been through various degrees of my life that just didn't make too much sense.
yeah,
And I am at a point in my life, like I also got burnt from the industry big time,
mm,
like really big.
yeah,
Like when you see things happen within your industry, within like certain companies and stuff like that, like you get into that whole conversation that happened sometime last year about the poor person who died making comics
yes,
essentially.
yeah,
I voiced in on how bad comics can be,
yeah,
and I've worked for some very lovely people. I've worked for some very bad people.
yeah.
One of the good people is Storm King Comics, headed by Sandy King, and she just happens to be the wife of John Carpenter, but whatever. Sandy,
I
San-
like the breezing past that. Just
well,
happy.
I mean, when you meet Sandy,
Yeah.
she is a fucking force. I love that woman. She is amazing. Like
Hmm.
she's been a producer on John's films, and she's a driving force, and her comics company is fucking phenomenal. Like
Nice.
they're making horror comics and stuff like that. She brought me on John Carpenter's Tales for a Halloween Night, Volume 5.
Very nice.
That's a lot to say. But she's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
She's but I've worked for others that were just wanted to get deals and shenanigans and
Hmm.
rights and things like that. And I'm like, I I had it. I didn't have my creative spark. I
Yeah.
didn't have anything.
Mhm.
I felt dead on a artistic level, and
Yeah.
even the recent conversations of AI art, which
Yeah.
is breaking my heart today. But I
Yeah.
mean, um, had a great conversation between me, my husband Steve, and who is also a comics creator.
Hmm.
We went to his holiday party back in December of 2023. And we all talked about like how publishers are just, eh.
Yeah.
He's got a really great publisher and whatnot right now. But in the past, we've had problems with publishers, whomever
Yeah.
they may be. And I just had this spark, like as I'm talking, like, well, I should just do a web comic. I just
Yes.
but I didn't know where. I didn't
Hmm.
know where. Because, there's Webtoon and they have the very great platform. It's a great place for young people, I think.
Yeah.
Probably not me. But I mean, I'm not my audience. I don't know who my audience is. I'll never know who my audience is. If you love
Mhm.
me, great. 7-year-old out there, I love
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It
How'd
could,
you
a
get to
fan
my
could
book?
come out of anywhere.
Yeah, it's true. I did apologize to the mom, but she's like, you know what? Fine. It's fine. But I thought, you know what? Maybe webcomic is right. And I
Yeah.
just need to find the right place. And Global Comics, like they've been bringing on a bunch of people. Like I saw Oni the other day. Of course, there's Image, and I'm blanking on a bunch of them right
Yeah.
now, of course, because of course. But the fact that major publishers are starting to go to
Hmm.
them makes me think like, yeah, maybe right now is a time that this is a blossoming site. Comixology got bought out by Amazon and then transformed into Kindle, and now
Yeah.
Comixology doesn't exist,
Hmm.
which was a big bummer. And of course, I'm
Yeah.
still creating traditional pages
Yes.
for volume 2. And I'm doing them black and white. Actually, as of today, it's monochromatic, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Black, white,
Hmm.
solid, not solid red pages, but like
Yeah.
there is an element of color, but it's not the painterly stuff that I was doing. But this is only because it's web only,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
free content. And when I have the time, because I'm doing client work and I'm
Yeah.
trying to manage things. I'm trying to get more work in so I can pay off those bills, the credit card bill.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't know where the profit will come from God Machine, but I owe it to my fans. I owe it to myself.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at, I got the creative bug again, and I don't know
Yeah.
why. And I'm not going to question it
It's a
because I'm
gift.
very. Oh yeah. Oh wow. What a gift.
Oh yeah.
What
It's
a
funny
gift.
because I was half saying that seriously, half as creator myself. It's a gift until it's a curse. It's one of
Oh
those
yeah.
things
Oh,
where what?
oh sure. Oh
Yeah.
sure. Like it's always going to be a curse
Yeah.
though.
It's the Ouroboros. It's just the snake eating stuff. Which you know what? I would have it no other way. This
I
madness of creation, I would have no other way personally.
I'm just so thankful for my
Hmm.
brain kicking in and being like, let's do volume 2. I mean,
Yeah.
like with the successful Kickstarter that I had
Yeah.
back in whenever 2022, I think. or 2021. I don't know. Time. I don't understand it. I
It
really
doesn't
don't understand
exist.
it.
It ceases to
No, it
exist.
doesn't. But when I made the second version of volume one and I added more pages and all that,
Yeah.
which by the way, anybody who wants to, you can still buy this. We have a Shopify. I Machina Corpse, whatever. Anyways, when we made this beautiful thing, and of course the old one is hiding behind the new one over there. Anyways,
In fact,
um,
before you continue really quickly, speaking of,
you have the leather bound.
and you am forever thankful for that. That was
Oh,
awesome.
thank you, sweetie.
Um, Sadly, we do have to end this. 7 questions. I believe seven is the number of completion.
Oh,
Uh,
7-7 going to heaven. 3-7.
However, dear audience, I believe that the communication does not have to stop for you. If you want to plug your socials, Cham.
Please find me at Spooky Chan on X. On
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, we just breezed past that.
yeah, I'm
I'm
kind of
on.
there. I'm on Blue Sky and whatever, and I'm on Facebook, Chandra Free, uh, spookychan.com. Find my email if you need to email me for whatever reason. I will try to respond.
Yes.
And I'm all over the place. And Machina Corpse, I'm behind that mostly, and
Mhm.
also the husband. And find me on Instagram at Spooky Chan and the God Machine and Machina Corpse. Oh my God, do I have socials for you?
I will say, just on a personal note, people should follow anything that you have to do because your takes on certain things are interesting. I did read your IA take today, which was very, very impassioned, and I agree with it 110%.
Thank you. Thank you. All
It's
right.
one of those things where I think that even though it's a point of contention for a lot of people, people aren't talking about it enough.
I've kind of avoided it a little bit
Yeah.
because I'm actually on one of those lists. You can imitate my artwork through AI, and I'm very upset about it, and I
Yeah.
don't know what to do about that. I would love to do a lawsuit, actually.
Yeah.
That's that sounds great, but it is a really sad state of affairs. And but I was also thinking back to when uh, printing was happening, like the
Yes.
printed word, and that
Hmm.
put people out of business, which that sucks. But we've never had it be an artificial intelligence
Yeah.
put people out of work, which
Hmm.
brings a whole different bag of worms, right?
That's true.
Like, when does the AI become sentient?
Yep.
When do we give
Go for
them
the whole
rights?
Kurzweil singularity movement, all of that.
It's like, it opens a whole new world, but right now at this point in time it is machinery as we understand it, or don't understand it enough, plugging
Yeah.
away at our material and
Mm.
actually fitting it together, spinning it, making it into something that's supposed to mimic people like me.
Yeah. Personally, will say that the God Machine, inimitable. It's unique on its own.
Thank you.
Chandra, it was such a pleasure to speak with you.
It's a pleasure too, Robert.